On August 21st, US time, 8th Division World Boxing Champion Senator Manny Pacquiao will face the WBA welterweight champion Yordenis Ugas at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. The fight will be yet another chapter in the saga of the People's Champ, who rose from his humble roots in General Santos City to unprecedented heights in the world of boxing. Will the fight be the last for the Pambansang Kamao? Or does he have more than enough in the tank to continue his legacy and add another chapter to his boxing glory? After the fight, should he continue fighting or just retire for good? Hello everyone, this is Chip from Game High, and in this video we'll focus on three things. Number 1, the legacy of Manny Pacquiao and what he has accomplished in his more than 2 decades of boxing. Number 2, his chances against the WBA welterweight champion Yordenis Ugas. And number 3, why he needs to stop fighting and why his fight against Ugas should be his last. And as always, if you like this content and you want to see more videos about sports and video gaming, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Share this on social media and comment below as well. Our Pangbansang Kamao is a living legend. Never since the heyday of Mike Tyson did the world see another boxer similar in style, equally exciting, and packs a punching power that is usually a staple among heavyweight boxers until Pacquiao came along. His boxing style electrified the crowd, and he became a great draw. From his early days of boxing, featured every Friday beyond primetime more than 20 years ago, to the present day when he became a certified pay-per-view box office hit, his fights are must-see TV both for expert boxing aficionados and casual fans alike. Since winning the world title in the lineal flyweight division against Chatchay Sasakul in 1998, he continuously improved and transformed himself into an elite boxer. By sheer tenacity, discipline, and admirable work ethic, he reached the pinnacle of success and remained there ever since, becoming a global icon and a household name. Along the way, he found not only fame but also built a great sizable fortune for himself and his family. He had more than a share of memorable bouts, starting from Marco Antonio Barrera, whom he had beaten in 2003. The victory catapulted him to international stardom, and then you have the Eric Morales trilogy, considered to be one of the greatest classics of modern boxing. Then of course, Pacquiao's name can never be left out without his memorable battles with Juan Manuel Marquez. Then one by one, he disposed of feared boxing greats. Some of them he put into retirement for good. In no particular order, the list contains Sugar Shane Mosley, Miguel Cotto, Antonio Margarito, Oscar De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, and Joshua Clottey. These names are a veritable who's who in the boxing world the past 2 decades. Majority of them will be inducted to the Hall of Fame eventually, and the Pacman vanquished them all. All in all, he had won 12 titles in 8 divisions, and is a sure lock to the Hall of Fame. Because of all of his achievements, he is now considered to be one of the all-time greats, if not the greatest in the sport, and compared to the likes of Mike Tyson, Rocky Marciano, and Muhammad Ali. Though there are losses such as those against Timothy Bradley, Juan Manuel Marquez, Floyd Mayweather Jr., and Jeff Horn, those losses never really make a dent to his reputation and greatness. His accomplishments are far greater and will never be tarnished by those defeats, memorable as they were. But just like most athletes, the hardest thing for them to do is to walk away from the sport they dearly love, especially if they owe to the sport everything that they have. Our Manny Pacquiao, at present a senator and contemplating to run for higher office, decided to add another chapter to his storied career, at the time when his hands should be full thinking about other things. Many claim that at age 41, Manny Pacquiao is no longer spring chicken. They say he is no longer the athlete he once was 10 or 15 years ago, when he terrorized other boxing greats through a dazzling display of boxing skills and combination of speed and punching power. No doubt that the power may still be there, and more so does the speed. But some people, however, have doubts. These are the arguments of those doubting Thomases. After Pacquiao retired temporarily in 2015, his record has been far from impressive. It is true that he only lost once since his fight against Mayweather, That was a very controversial decision against Jeff Horn. But most of his fights are no longer against top-of-the-line elite boxers who are considered a lock in the Hall of Fame. He scored only one knockout in his 6 fights after Mayweather, and after his fight against Keith Thurman, which he won by a narrow split decision, he was inactive for the last 2 years. Pacquiao's upcoming fight should have been against Errol Spence Jr., an undisputed champion many considered to be at his prime. Currently ranked number 4 as the best pound-for-pound boxer, Pacquiao would have faced someone who is at the peak of his career, and Spence is the first truly elite fighter that he would go head-to-head with in the last 6 years. However, as fate would have it, his fight was cancelled due to Spence's eye injury. Instead, Yordenis Ugas, WBA's current welterweight champion, is now scheduled to take a shot at the Pacman. Manny's most impressive victory in that span came against Keith Thurman and Timothy Bradley, whom he had beaten twice. And he scored only one knockout for more than 10 years. With the Pambansang Kamao well advancing in age, with less than impressive performance the past couple of years, and without any boxing activity the past 2 years, some claim that Pacquiao is already way past his prime and is already sailing to the sunset. Against those doubters, we contend that there is still more left in him, and that he can still compete at an elite level. Consider the following. The fact that Pacquiao only lost once in the last 6 years, and a controversial one at that, it still says a lot. One can also argue, on the contrary, that he has done particularly well in the last 6 years compared to the years leading to the Mayweather fight, when he had lost to Timothy Bradley and Juan Manuel Marquez in 2012 successively, before bowing out to Pretty Boy Floyd in 2015. He may not be facing the likes of a Mayweather Jr., or an Antonio Margarito or Miguel Cotto, but his opponents are definitely no pushovers. Keith Thurman is an elite fighter, and it will still be too early to say that Keith will not make it as one of the all-time greats. One of the hardest punchers in the welterweight division, he was undefeated until he lost to Manny in 2019. To date, he is considered as one of the best boxers in the world. Thurman himself has been calling out Spence to fight him. Manny had also beaten Timothy Bradley twice, and some will say 3 times. One may claim that Bradley is not an elite fighter, but Bradley himself had beaten Juan Manuel Marquez only a year after knocking out the Pacman. The lack of so-called elite fighters has something to do with the state of the boxing division from which Pacquiao is in. Definitely not because he is avoiding them. His cancelled fight with Spence is proof that he is still ready to rumble with the best. Pacquiao may be advancing in age, but he gained so much in wisdom. He is older by more than a decade and has more than 2 decades of boxing experience, which he will take to the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, to be exploited to the hilt against Yordenis Ugas. Truth be told, Ugas may be unknown to most boxing fans. Since winning bronze in the 2008 Beijing Olympics, he has been flying under the radar. His list of achievements is short compared to other boxers Pacquiao has faced. Boxing glory may have eluded Ugas for the last 13 years, but against Manny, he will have the opportunity to put the world on notice. He will have a chance to break into boxing's elite circle, that is, if he will have an impressive victory against someone considered to be first-class tier among all-time greats. That should give him enough motivation to go all in against Pacquiao. On the other hand, that should give enough reason for the Pacman not to be complacent. More than that, he should be motivated by all the talks that he is old, washed up, way past his prime, whatever description that you would want Manny to be painted with. One thing is certain, an impressive victory against Ugas will put an end to all those talks and silence all the critics. However, one factor that may be going against Pacquiao is his inactivity. He has not fought the last 2 years. Freddie Roach and company have a tough task at hand to put Pacquiao in tip-top shape come August 21st. Manny Pacquiao certainly has much more left in the tank, but even if Spence did not get injured, we believe that his August 21st bout should be his last. It has nothing to do with whether he can still slug it out with the best, because he absolutely still can. Our belief has much more to do with the dangers inherent in the sport itself. Fighting for more than 2 decades, Pacquiao has a record of 62 wins, 7 losses, and 2 draws. It is safe to say that he has fought nearly 1,000 rounds in his professional career, and this does not include sparring, which probably counts thousands more. One can only imagine the amount of brutal pounding he has received throughout the years. Already in his 26th year of professional boxing, Manny has the most mileage compared to other boxers currently active. And considering his boxing style, the amount of pounding is certainly more, if not much worse compared to others. He fought boxing's all-time greats in succession, and he went toe-to-toe with them. You can only imagine the volume of punches he received in that span. Add to that the number of punches he had received from more than 2 decades, from his fights as well as in sparring. Then we really have to wonder whether it is really worth it for him to take the risk at this stage in his career. We must bear in mind the case of Muhammad Ali, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at the age of 42. His disease was a consequence of chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Otherwise known as CTE, it is a degenerative disease that afflicts some boxers. CTE is caused by repeated blows to the head. Years of fighting and accumulated hits could eventually lead to CTE. It could then lead to other diseases such as Parkinson's. Others could include dementia and even psychotic disorders. Parkinson's disease eventually consumed Ali, but a fighter such as Manny could be more susceptible to CTE due to him playing in a lower weight division where throwing punches and exchanges are more frequent. CTE and its complications are degenerative diseases. It progresses over time. But worse, one big blow to his head may cause some serious immediate damage, considering his age and all the accumulated pounding he has received throughout the years. The infamous case of Duk Koo Kim, who died after being knocked out by Boom Boom Mancini in November 1982, should give all of us who cheer for him a pause. Bearing his health in mind, it is only proper that all of us who love Manny should appeal to him to stop fighting and make his bout with Ugas his curtain call. Let's face it, Manny's legacy is already secured. A victory or a loss against Ugas, Spence, or anyone else will not really change the narrative. He is already one of the all-time greats, and adding 1 or 2 victories or a couple of world titles in his resume will not change anything. He had more than enough to secure his place in history. And there are other challenges waiting for him. He can devote more of his time to his family, for one, and also, as a duly elected senator of the Republic, he can be more focused to serve his countrymen and by being full-time in public service. With the success of our boxers in the Olympics, he can help in developing younger talents and boxers that will inherit his mantle. Yumir Marshal is under Pacquiao's MP promotions and may very well turn pro. Manny can use his influence to promote boxing and the welfare of boxers in our country. The Pacman has done more than enough to bring glory to the Philippines. It is time to consider his welfare, his health. It will be supremely ironic and totally unfair to him if he will eventually suffer as a result of his passion for a sport that also gave so much to him, his family, and his country. We appeal that his fight with Ugas should be his last. So that's about it. Appreciate you all for the time. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up down below. Also check us out on Facebook and Instagram, as well as listen to our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for our past episodes. Until our next one, guys, stay safe and we'll see you around.